What's on the slate this weekend? What's happening in the sports world? We're going to get into it to start the show on this Friday, a little weekend menu to kick things off on this Friday edition of Wire to Wire. So good to be with you on the 27th day now of February. Welcome in. I'm Cole Bryson. And I am still solo for one more day, but no need to worry. The Cavalry Diesel arrives back on Monday, so excited to have Diesel back with us rocking and rolling on Monday. But Tolos, it's Friday. The weekend is almost here. Appreciate you being a part of the show today on this Friday show. And I'm telling you what, man, a loaded show today. If you have thoughts, you better get them in because we have guests. We've got reaction. We've got predictions to get to. Oh, my goodness, a lot to get to on the show today. We're going to start, though, with a little weekend menu. What's on tap this weekend from a sports watching perspective? And in the very next segment, the next two segments, we're going really, really local. And I mean very local, like right here in Greenville. We'll be joined by two different basketball coaches. In our number one of the show, Alan Arnold, head coach of the Riverside Warriors, joins the show at 3:25, 3:40. Yerrick Stoneman, head coach of Greenville, joins the show. Why are those two coaches coming on? Well, they just so happen to be playing each other tonight in the Upper State Championship game at Wofford College. I'm going to make it probably right at tip. As soon as the show's over, I'm going to bolt to Spartanburg for that. We're going to get into college basketball. We'll talk to Jason Priester of the Clemson Insider at 4:22. We've got to get into Clemson, South Carolina baseball predictions, what's happening tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday. In the Palmetto Rivalry Series, I guess you still call it that, 5:22. On the show today, we'll be joined by Lane Fowler, the head boys basketball coach of the Burns Running Rebels, ahead of their Upper State Championship game tomorrow. An audio blitz to get to in hour number 4 of the show. And I mean a lot coming down the pipe today. Tolos, welcome in the Wire to Wire. Again, if you just tuned in, I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you on this Friday. A lot of interaction already on the stream where you can watch the show. 19 Tolos have already jumped in on the stream to watch on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Excuse me. And appreciate those listening on FM as well. 97.1 FM Spartanburg, 97.7 FM Greenville, 101.5 FM in Anderson. But if you're going to get your thoughts in, you better do it because, like I said, it is a absolute loaded show today. Phone lines, text line open. It's the Joy Law Firm text line, 844-326-3663. I want to know from you Tolos out there in this opening segment as we do a little weekend menu. I want to know what your weekend looks like. What does a sports fan's weekend look like at the end of the month of February, right? You don't have high school football. You don't have college football. You don't have NFL. So without football, what does the average sports fan in the upstate of South Carolina, what does their sports weekend, what does their weekend look like in general? 844-326-3663. The Joy Law Firm text line is open. Phone lines are open as well. As you get those in, what your weekend looks like, we're going to go through a little weekend menu to see what's on tap from a sports watching perspective this weekend. I do think it'll be tough to match last weekend because last weekend, in my opinion, was a really good sports weekend from a watchability standpoint. And obviously the Olympics, having the gold medal match on Sunday helped a lot as well. The golf was really good last weekend. I don't know that the golf will be as good this weekend. NASCAR was good last weekend. I don't know that NASCAR will be as good this weekend because it's a road course and I don't like road courses. But Tolos, if you just tuned in, what are your weekend plans here in the upstate? Let me know at 844-326-3663. For those watching the show on the stream as well, get your comments in on the chat there, and we're going to go through what sports you have on the docket to choose from this weekend. Let's go to the phone lines to kick things off on this Tolo Friday. Who do we have?
Dewey.
What's up, Dewey? You're calling early today.
oh, well, I'm going to be cutting grass this weekend because the grass is starting to grow. And then I'm going to be drinking my beer and listening to Burns because they're going to win the Upper State Championship. And then Lane Fowler's going to become the coach of South Carolina.
Does he know that yet?
Well, you need to ask him. That's what Rick and Greer said.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I do need to ask him that. I don't think there's grass growing to cut yet, though, is there, Dewey?
Well, I put seeds down and now they're growing, so I need to cut them.
Oh, you put seeds down yourself?
Yeah.
Are you a lawn expert?
No, but they said if you put seeds down, the grass will grow.
Yeah, that's usually the way it was.
So then now I have something to do while I drink my beer is cut the grass.
Oh, my gosh.
And then after that, I guess it's going to be college basketball and Burns basketball.
That's right. That's a good weekend, right?
And then even Furman, which that's a travesty. That's taking precedence.
I've got you loyal to be a Burns Rebel now, don't I, Dewey?
Oh, yes. And then after that, then you need to call the baseball team stuff next.
Oh, wow. Thanks for saying that. Now I'm going to have text messages. I appreciate that, Dewey. I really do.
Well, they'll give you a bonus check for it.
Yeah.
Probably $5,000 per game.
Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely do it. Yeah. When do I start? Dewey, hope you have a great weekend.
Oh.
I wish y'all knew how hard. I really do. I wish y'all knew how hard it was to follow up Dewey's phone calls, to transition back to like normal sports talk radio. It's so challenging. You just don't know how hard it is. You have no idea. How do you get back into regular conversation after that? Appreciate the phone call. As always, though, Dewey, 844-326-3663. A couple of texts coming in already on the Joy Law Firm text line, but it's a pretty good sports weekend. So you do have NASCAR at the Circuit of America's COTA, if you will, on Sunday. Spring training from a baseball perspective is rolling on. I don't know how many of you are invested in spring training, especially from a Braves perspective. Now, an interesting note, Ronald Acuna Jr. did hit a grand slam today, so that's pretty cool. Good to see him getting going. College baseball, huge college baseball weekend, obviously here in the state of South Carolina with Clemson and South Carolina playing. That's big. Are you going to be watching that, Tolos? Is that on your sports weekend viewing watch list? A really big weekend of college basketball. It's the next to last college basketball weekend of the regular season for men's. Heck, the women's conference tournaments are already starting next week. So this is it for the women's or on the women's side of things. Like, for example, in Greenville next weekend, the SEC tournaments here. Heck, I think it starts Wednesday or Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So a pretty good weekend of college basketball coming up. What else? What else, Tolos, is on the docket? 844-326-3663 that you're interested in. Texter from the 864, or that's the area code from the 761, gets in and says, I may watch a little bit of the Clemson South Carolina series, just depending on how well the Gamecocks do. It may not last long. Well, hopefully, for your sake, Texter, South Carolina will at least keep the games competitive so it's not blowouts. And even though, like I said yesterday, man, one thing to remember, even though Clemson swept the series last year, they were 3 good games. Friday night, when the Friday night game at Clemson was good. Saturday here in Greenville at Floor Field, I remember Diesel and I were there. It was actually a really good competitive game last year. So, yeah, Clemson swept, but the games were good. The watchability was really, really good. I hope it's that way this weekend. As I said yesterday, I think rivalry series and rivalry games are better. When both teams are good, it's no fun. When the teams aren't good, like South Carolina, they did lose to Queens, so we'll see how they do. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show, but obviously that's high on the watchability when it comes to what's on the docket this weekend. Cornchip gets in on the Joy Law Firm text line. He says, I'm taking my daughter to the James Madison Michigan State game at Floor Field on Sunday. How about that, Cornchip? That's a great idea. Great on you for taking your kid to a baseball game, getting in a little baseball, right? James Madison, Michigan State. Michigan State has this thing where they come to Greenville just about every year to get down south where it's a little bit warmer. I believe they play, without looking at the schedule, just off the top of my head, I think Michigan State stays in town through the weekend and plays Clemson on Wednesday at Fluor Field. So a lot of those northern teams do that. You saw Army do it. They opened the year at Clemson. Then they went to South Carolina the very next weekend. And that's why Eric Bakich and others are trying to push the college season back for those teams up north. So that's awesome, Corn Chip. Hope you have a good time. I don't know off the top of my head how good Michigan State and JMU is, but hey, it's baseball. It's college baseball, so that should be a lot of fun. I do wish the Palmetto Series rivalry between Clemson and South Carolina was in the upstate, like at Fluor Field every year. That's just the selfish part of me, right, that wants that. I'd love to see it at the new Spartanburger Stadium one year as well. I don't know if that will ever happen just due to the size of the stadium. I don't know if Clemson and South Carolina require the stadium to be a certain size. The Spartanburger Stadium, Fifth Third Park, is exceptional. I absolutely love it. And I would love to see Clemson, South Carolina there. That's a question we'll have to ask the higher-ups of the Spartanburgers. But they've had college games there already, one this year with South Carolina and Wofford just, last week, and having a few more and some high school games there. So absolutely love it out at Fifth Third Park. But the selfish part of me, I do love going to the Clemson, South Carolina series. I won't be able to make a game this weekend. Tonight is in Columbia. Tomorrow is at Segra Park in Columbia. Make that make sense. I still don't think that's neutral site. I wish they were either going to go to the coast or the upstate every year on that Saturday. I don't like having it at Segra Park. I just don't know what the point of that is. And then Saturday, or Sunday rather, Sunday's at Clemson. So I think that'll be interesting to see what the crowd's like Friday at South Carolina compared to Sunday at Clemson. Corn Chip says we're going to that game against Clemson too, talking about the game on Wednesday. You know what? I don't know what time that game is, Corn Chip. Probably 6:30, 7:30 on Wednesday, but I might swing over to that game as well, depending on what I have going on next Wednesday. But I might swing over there for that one at Fluor Field. Let me look. When is that game? What's the time on that? Because it is Clemson and Michigan State Wednesday, I believe. That is next. Heck, March is already here. March is already here. I think that's March, the 3rd? Is that? Oh, no, the March 4th. Sorry about that. March 4th, next Wednesday, Clemson, Michigan State. That's a 6 o'clock first pitch. So don't know if Diesel or I will be able to make it to that with the show going until 7, but maybe we can slip over there at the very last minute to catch some of those innings. Clemson and Michigan State on Wednesday at Fluor Field, 6 p.m. first pitch there. That is the only midweek game Clemson has next weekend before they play LaSalle for 4 games, a 4-game series coming up for the Tigers. What else, Tolos? 844-326-3663. The 22 watching on the stream. What does your weekend look like? Does it involve sports? I know, like with spring approaching, weekends involve sports less and less, right? Just from the sense of, hey, the weather's turning nice. You're getting outside. You're doing yard work. You might go an entire weekend without watching sports, which is unfortunate, but it happens a lot, especially this time of year through the summer. No college football, obviously, no NFL. You do have NBA this weekend to choose from. You've got some, like I said, spring training going on. I think the MLB opening day, a little bit less than 30 days now, if I'm not mistaken. NHL happening. I think college basketball is the most intriguing thing this weekend from a national perspective. From a local perspective, obviously, Clemson, South Carolina is more intriguing, I believe. Clemson and Louisville Saturday in basketball is very intriguing as well to see if Brad Burnell and the Tigers can bounce back. But I don't know about golf and NASCAR this weekend. I was really high on both last weekend. The Classic and the Palm Beaches, down in the Palm Beach Gardens in Florida, that started yesterday, a purse of $9.6 million. Joe Highsmith was last year's winner. I don't know. I don't know that this weekend's golf interests me much. And like I said, I'm not a fan of road courses at NASCAR, so I won't be tuned into that. Just not a fan there. I believe Sunday I'll be down at Clarks Hill Lake, so I won't be able to catch much of that. And I don't know if I'll be able to catch all of the Clemson, South Carolina game. But I think college basketball and the Palmetto Rivalry Series, I think those are the two most intriguing things on the watchability standpoint this weekend. On Facebook, on the stream, Stephen Webb gets in. He says, I'm headed to Nashville with my wife and daughter to take in our first United States women's soccer game. Now, that's freaking awesome. That is cool, Stephen. Call the show if you have a few minutes. I'd love to know more about that. Headed to Nashville. Now, again, the reason I say call the show if you have time at some point today, Stephen, I don't know anything about soccer. I'm not a soccer guy. So when it comes to men's or women's soccer, that's not me. I'm not going to pretend like I know either. So that's pretty cool, though. And I'm guessing you'd have to explain to me which league it is, which team it is that you're going to see in Nashville this weekend. But that's cool, man. I would also like to hear from you next Monday as well to hear how that experience was. And again, I'm not going to lie to you. You may say, well, Cole, you should know this hosting a sports radio show, but I don't do soccer. I just don't. Soccer's not my thing. So I couldn't even tell you if Nashville has a soccer team. Evidently they do because Steven's going to the game. But that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Headed to Nashville with my wife and daughter to take in our first United States women's soccer game. Steven, would love to hear more about that at 844-326-3663, either today or Monday, especially after the fact. I don't know why. I guess if you grow up playing it, maybe you're inclined to have an interest in it, but I've just never had any interest whatsoever in soccer. I hadn't. Let's go to the phone lines, 844-326-3663. Who we got?
Hey, what's going on, Paul?
Hey, Steven.
Webb. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well.
All right, tell me about this.
We're longtime fans, but my daughter's played soccer since she was 4, and unfortunately, every time that they've been close for us to go watch a game, and she's 19 now, by the way, and in college playing soccer. Every time they've been close, she's had a club game or a high school game. We've never been able to go to one. So it just so happened that she's on her spring break this week coming up, and we are going to be able to head out for the first time ever. We've seen the men play, the United States men, several times, and we've seen Messi, and we've seen Miami FC and a lot of other regional teams, but this is the first time we'll actually get to see one of the ladies that she grew up watching in the women's sport.
So what team is it? Again, apologize for not knowing. What team or league is this?
It's the United States women's team.
Okay.
A lot of the players play in the MLS
Gotcha.
for the women's side and NWLS, excuse me. And then they all come together, and there's a local, Emily Sears is actually from Clemson, and I'm pretty sure she's on the roster for this trip.
No way.
But it is a great environment. Irregardless of politics, to get involved in soccer, the game's a beautiful game. I grew up 6'3", almost 300 pounds. So I grew up basketball, football, things of that nature. Never knew anything about soccer until my kids wanted to play.
Says they're playing Argentina online, Steven.
Yeah, they're playing Argentina. We're actually getting a doubleheader. We're going to see Canada versus Colombia before that, and then it'll be the United States women versus Argentina, and it's a tournament. So it's She Believes Cup is what it's called, and we dominated that series here lately, but it should be still an interesting, good game. Good to see all of the starters actually out there on the field. And we look forward to it, staying in a high-rise downtown Nashville.
Wow.
Good food,
man.
good time. And
hey, it says,
enjoy it.
Steve, I'm reading online. So basically, it's kind of a test run ahead of the World Cup qualifiers later this year.
Yes. And this is the first time we'll get to see the team as a whole, as it's constructed now. The coach that came in, and my daughter knows her name.
Yeah.
It can drop at any time. However, she is amazing. She's done a great job. I do know that she was over at Chelsea. And
Emma Hayes.
Women's side, Emma Hayes, that's it.
Google's her best friend right now.
And she is an amazing coach. I mean, she has turned the women's game around, and a lot of fun. Trinity Rodman, and she brings just as much character to the team as Dennis Rodman did to his team for the Bulls. So they're an interesting team to watch. And if anyone gets a chance, they should check it out and support the United States. Like I said, a lot of people don't like politics to get in the women's game. I don't care for it myself, but I support the ladies for going out there and playing the game.
So Dennis Rodman's daughter's on Team USA's team?
Yes, she is. Her name is Trinity Rodman.
Wow.
She is wonderful to watch. Really enjoy her character. Like I said, you can tell her dad's Dennis Rodman and a lot of things.
That's crazy.
And the way that she got even Emma Hayes to dance with her at the last game they played, it's amazing because Emma Hayes is kind of one of those coaches you see that's real strict, real regimented, but she got her to dance with her on the sideline, which is real cool. I don't know the name of the dance. Again, my daughter could tell you. But we're looking forward to heading up and enjoying all Nashville has to offer, including the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Hey, well, y'all be safe, have fun, and let us know on Monday how the trip was, okay?
Absolutely. And if you get a chance, check out the game. It's really interesting to watch.
Absolutely. Appreciate the phone call, Stephen. 844-326-3663. Bam, there's your soccer lesson from for the day. I love that. I absolutely love it. Just because I don't know anything about it doesn't mean I'm not willing to learn, okay? I'm willing to learn, and again, you can Google and learn a few things pretty quick, but that's awesome. That is, I don't know how many soccer fans we have listen in the upstate. If we have more than one, I'm sure we do. Let me know. Let us know. I think that's cool. I don't hate you or think any less of you for liking soccer. I just don't like it. Not my cup of tea. I've never had a reason to be interested in it. So really, really cool there. And I don't know. I mean, the bad thing is, this is terrible to say, I couldn't name a handful of soccer players, but that's why we have you Tolos out there. That's what you are for. You are the soccer gurus out there. Hey, I want to hear from you. I mean, let's hear from you more often, not just Stephen Webb. If you and you know, whatever the sport is, if it's not something we cover, just because we don't cover it a lot doesn't mean we won't talk about it, especially if you are interested in it. So that's pretty cool, man. Have fun up there, Stephen and Stephen's family in Nashville. Nashville's a fun place, right? Country music. If you like country music, if you don't like country music, maybe it's not. I don't know, but that is pretty cool. All right, in the very next segment, we're going to bring it local and talk high school basketball. There is a massive high school basketball playoff game happening tonight. In fact, it's the Upper State Championship in 5A Boys Division II. It's Riverside and Greenville. Allen Arnold versus Yerrick Stolman, and will be joined by Allen Arnold of Riverside next, right here on the Fan Upstate. it's a massive weekend in the upstate and across the state of South Carolina when it comes to local high school basketball. Upper state championships happening, lower state championships happening as well, and a massive game tonight right here in Spartanburg at Wofford College between Riverside and Greenville. We'll have Yerrick Stolman on in the very next segment, but let's bring on Alan Arnold right now, the head basketball coach of the Riverside Warriors. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Appreciate you hopping on with us on this Friday to talk a little high school basketball, Riverside, Greenville. I want to ask you out of the gate, Coach, is your preparation from a team standpoint any different or unique going against the team for the second time this season compared to, let's say, if the game were the first time you were playing that opponent?
You know, there's not a lot of uniqueness about me. We just we try to do the same thing all the time. We prepare very well for teams. Obviously, you have a little bit more knowledge of them after you played them for a second time, but I take pride in preparing us for games. So usually we know a lot about a team, whether we played them once or not played them. So, you know, we kind of do the same thing, same rituals. We just put it together and prepare ourselves the best we can.
Talking to Alan Arnold, the head basketball coach of the Riverside Warriors from right here in the upstate in Greer. Coach, this one's at Wofford tonight, expecting a big crowd. What does it mean for you, this team, the success you guys have had with Sabi and the rest of the crew this year? So much success, but what does it mean for you and this group to be able to have an opportunity at a place like Wofford College to play a basketball game with a chance to punch your ticket to the state championship?
You know, I think it feels like a true upper state game, being able to host at Wofford, which I'm very grateful for them allowing us to have the game there. You know, there are several high schools we could have had it at, and they would have been fine venues, but I just think it adds a personal touch for the kids to actually play in this environment. And, you know, it should be a great game. Greenville's a great team. And, you know, I feel like we'll have a great crowd, so it should just be an exciting something the boys can remember the rest of their life, type atmosphere.
Coach, is there any truth to like playing in a different venue that's bigger, that has a bigger background behind the basket? You hear that a lot in basketball. Is there any truth there?
I mean, I think it's when you play in different spots, you know, you can obviously when you're familiar with something, it's a little bit easier, I guess. But you know, I think the two teams will both show up, and I don't think that'll be a huge factor.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. I just didn't know. You hear that a lot, so you just you do think about it. You know,
I mean, you do. We don't think about it.
Sure.
You know, I don't think either team's been able to practice up there, so we're both going in the same way. You know, we'll be on even playing ground.
What makes this Greenville team good? It's a Greenville team you guys saw earlier in the season, and it was in December, 68-65 win for Greenville over at their place. But it's been a while since you played that Greenville team. What makes them good in your mind?
I mean, they got really good players. They're really well coached. They play extremely hard. They, I mean, I can name players. You know, they just have really good players. They have a lot of talent. They can score the basketball. They can defend well, and you know, they're coached by one of the best. So, you know, I think that's what makes them good. I think they're probably better than they were in December, and I think we're better than we were in December. Yeah. So, you know, I think just going to be a good game. I hope it's a great game. I hope we're able to do what we need to do to keep the game, you know, close and have a chance to win at the end.
Well, you just mentioned both teams playing better. It was 66 days ago. So when you prepare, like during the course of the region, you and your staff have a little time to watch film. Is there anything that you can take from that game with it being so long ago, 66 days ago? Or in a way, do you almost have to treat it as a brand new, fresh slate, if you will?
I mean, obviously we watched it. We tried to, you know, see how they guard us, what things they did. But, you know, they've added wrinkles to their game, I'm sure. We've been fortunate enough to be able to go watch them live here recently a couple times right before the end of the season. But, you know, there's no secrets at this time of year. It's just a matter of going in and executing and, you know, having a good game plan and hopefully executing it to
the best of your ability and giving yourself a chance.
Coach, there's a lot of people in the upstate that probably are listening right now that may not have had a chance to see Sabi yet this season. When you talk about the type of player he is in an upper state championship game, we've seen him already this year make some big-time plays and big-time moments. One just a couple of nights ago, it feels like. What does a guy like that do for you? Not in terms of just your confidence, but a playmaking ability, playmaking standpoint. We hear it all the time. Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. And going into tonight's game, that certainly feels like a factor as good as that kid is, right?
Well, I sure am glad he's going to be on my team tonight. I wouldn't want to, have to try to guard him, but Greenville has some fine players too. They got 3 very, very good players for sure, and a lot to go around. So I mean, having Sabi is great. He's a phenomenal player. But what I want to say mostly about him is he's matured so much and been such a great leader down the stretch. This playoff series. I mean, the obvious is the way he can score the basketball, but everything else he's done for our team down the stretch is what's been the most beneficial for us and what I've been super proud of him for being.
You bring that up, and we hear it all the time, not just in basketball, but other sports, Coach, where great players not only perform well, but make those around them better. You guys have some really good talent other than Sabi. How does he make those teams or those teammates around them better that you see during practice, that you see during a game?
I mean, when he comes in, you can tell the difference in our team by his energy. Just his ability to make people better during practice. Just the way he plays, the way he attacks drills. If he's going hard, everybody's going hard. If he's hitting the floor, everybody's hitting the floor. That type of thing. So, first time, we practice in the morning every day. So the first thing I do is try to always be like, let's go. Everybody's going to follow you.
Yeah.
So, and he's done a exceptional job lately, just being that motivator and bringing energy and having that excitement, and everybody feeds off him. So, that's great. He's just very valuable to our team.
It's interesting that you talk about him in that way in terms of him kind of getting everybody else going. Would that being the case, do you guys in a big game like tonight, do you want that from him from a game playing standpoint as well? Obviously, you want it in game and practice, but I guess my question is, Coach, when you go into an upper state championship game, obviously the team around him, everybody's going to have a lot expected from them tonight. But do you maybe as a coach and a coaching staff ask him to do a little more in these type of games, or is it normal compared to the workload that you get from him in the games during the course of the regular season, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm just a simple guy. We're treating this game just like if we were playing 3 weeks ago at Bowling Springs or Spartanburg or Dorman it's just another game for us. I mean, everybody knows the importance of it. We're fortunate to be here. Fortunate to play a very good team and have the opportunity to play for, to win tonight and move on. But, we just treat it the same. I'm not asking anybody to do any more than they've done any other game. And, actually I probably trying to take a little more pressure off of him instead of him having all the pressure, and asking guys to maybe step up a little bit. But we're just doing what we do. And that's just kind of how we go about things. And it's not going to try to do, I don't want to put too much pressure on, it's just a normal game.
Talk about the impact Coach, the impact that Flynn's had this year for your team. A young player, but just a sophomore. But you wouldn't think he's a sophomore if you didn't know based on the way he plays. Talk about the impact a kid like that's had on the team this year and how valuable he can be tonight as well.
Huck's I've said it before. He's kind of the heart of our team. He most of his stuff does not show up in the stat book. He's going to guard. He's going to guard a very good player on the other team. He's going to control our team and try to take care of the ball the best he can and get us in our offense. His energy's phenomenal. His leadership for a sophomore is phenomenal. He knows what we want to do. He makes a couple young mistakes here and there, but that's to be expected. But he knows what we're trying to do. He understands the game. He's just he's going to be something to really watch out for in the next couple of years. Just a phenomenal year as a sophomore.
Coach, going into tonight's game, last question for you. I don't know what kind of pregame message you usually give to your team, but on the type of stage that you'll have tonight, the environment you mentioned, it's going to be a great crowd in Spartanburg over at Wofford College. Does what you say to your team, your pregame message, change at all? Do you amp it up for a night like this, or do you keep it pretty ho-hum?
Again, it's going to be just the same. We know what we're going to do. We're going to talk about what we're trying to execute. We'll give them a little motivational speech, but nothing different than in any other night. They know what's at stake. They know it's two very good teams going to play. So there's not a lot you need to say, I don't believe, as far as extra. We're just going to do the same thing as we always do.
Well, Coach, best of luck. We'll see you tonight, and appreciate you hopping on with me this afternoon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Alan Arnold, head basketball coach at Riverside. Man, I cannot wait for this one tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. And like we said, if you don't have plans tonight and you're a fan of high school basketball, you might want to check this one out, especially if you live in Spartanburg. It's going to be at Wofford College. I'm sure you can get tickets still as of right now. Look on social media, Riverside's Twitter account, and Greenville as well. And you can find the ticket information there for the tickets tonight. That's going to be maybe one of the best games of the weekend. Going to be a lot of fun. We'll continue the conversation in the very next segment and go to the other side. Yerrick Stoneman, the head basketball coach of the Greenville Red Raiders. What does he have to say about tonight's matchup? We'll talk to Coach Stoneman next.
Bryson and Diesel on the Fan Upstate.
Well, we're continuing the high school basketball conversation on this Friday ahead of a massive high school basketball weekend tonight and tomorrow, including a lot of really good basketball teams from right here in the Upstate. Talking about that Greenville Riverside game tonight over at Wofford College. Thanks to Alan Arnold for joining the show in the previous segment. Let's keep it going in this segment and go flip the coin now as we're joined by Eric Stoneman, the head basketball coach of the Greenville Red Raiders. Coach, how are you?
Doing well, sir. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely appreciate you hopping on to talk about tonight's game. Well, let me ask you this. Out of the gate, have you noticed any type of different energy, different anticipation from your guys tonight? It's a team you're familiar with, but kind of what's been the excitement level from your players ahead of tonight's huge game?
I think most of them have maintained a calm sense to themselves. I mean, we know what to expect. We played them around Christmas time. Coach does an amazing job. His program is just, they run his stuff exactly to the T how he wants it. So we try to do a lot of, imitating what they do, but it's hard to do because they do it at such a high level.
Well, Coach, I asked Alan Arnold in the last segment. I'll ask you the same question. You just mentioned it there. It's been 66 days since you guys last played. Do you use that game for anything in terms of preparation, or was it so long ago you almost have to start fresh?
Well, I think you got to start fresh. You always want to look at, at least their last, 3 to 4 games. For us, the Eastside game, because it was so close, you definitely want to use that one. But still, he runs the system. His players run that system extremely well. So we just got to, make sure that we stop the drive, little to zero paint touches, and, make sure defensively we close out quickly.
Coach, when you talk about playing against a player like Sabi, how difficult is it to game plan for a guy as dynamic as he is?
Well, I think, everybody who's played him already knows what he's going to do, but you can't stop it. So, that's the reason why he's so successful. He's getting downhill on the right-hand side. He's super strong. He handles the ball well on the perimeter. So, you put a smaller guard on him. He's, bumping people off and still getting to his spots inside. He's a streaky shooter. He can do that, and he defends well. And he's, super athletic. So, he's got a lot to the table. That's the reason why he's one of the top, 1 or 2 player in the state.
When you look at that last game, when it comes to how you guys defended him, do you use, as the coach of Greenville, pretty much like the same game plan, or do you throw wrinkles in there now that it's the second time you play them?
I think we got to throw wrinkles in just for the fact that, their whole team's a lot better.
Yeah.
One of their starters didn't start against us when we played them. And I'm sure that right there is a big difference in how they play. But, I'm sure they're throwing new wrinkles in too. So, we've got I guess it's a chess match between coach and I, but, I've got so much respect for him, his program. We just hope that our guys come out and compete tonight.
Coach, for those listening in the Upstate this afternoon that haven't had a chance to see your Red Raiders, talk about some of the guys that have made the engine go for your club this year.
Well, I think, one, you start off with our key shell. We call him Nuke. He's our, a little guard that we've got. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He doesn't stop. He puts amazing ball pressure on, 94 feet. So, I think that's what makes us go. Everybody knows Caden Coleman.
Yeah.
And, what he brings to the table, super athletic, great, low post skills. He'll rise over top, and shoot over top of people. Tucker Scholl is, he's one of those ones that's going to get, 5 or 6 rebounds. He's going to have about 16 points. He's going to have 4 or 5 assists. He shoots it at a high clip. And then we've got, really a big piece of what we've done is Gavin Griffin. He's about a 6'4", 6'5", wing, but, we've got to put him in the post. But he plays on the perimeter. He can, he's a streaky shooter. He rebounds. He protects the house. Those are some good ones. But, last 5 or 6 games, Keyshawn McCoy has really stepped up. Defended extremely well. We played Nation Ford. We did a pretty good job of scouting them and going over the things that they do. And he was calling out the the very first time that they ran their set, he was already calling out the back door from the other side of the court. So, he's really locked in lately, dealing with the defensive side. But, he's been big with us. Hillcrest, we played Hillcrest, and, the other game, he had a couple threes. So, if he can help us stretch the floor, it's going to make it a lot easier for us.
And then, Coach, when you talk about defending Riverside, obviously Sabee presents challenges, but I've seen them a couple of times this year. And the scary part is they've got guys outside of Sabee that are also deadly. How much emphasis do you and the team game planning put on not only him, but the other guys that can also hurt you if you're not careful?
Yeah, again, it's all about his system and what he does. And, he's got the guys in the right spot at the right time. They've got great shooters, and especially if they get down, like Huck can get downhill on the left-hand side, he'll kick it out. And their shooter's going to spot up. The bigs can shoot it as well. So it's a nightmare to try to game plan for, but, hopefully our guys just come out with the intensity and really lock in defensively and try to pick them up 94 feet.
Coach, I asked Coach Arnold, I want to ask you this. When you talk about playing at Wofford tonight, you hear this sometimes in basketball, but is there any talk, concern, truth to the, playing in a different, bigger venue with a different background compared to where you guys normally play? Or is that something you've even thought about or just kind of dismiss?
I think we dismiss, but I think it's, I think our two ADs did an amazing job of securing this type of venue. Yeah. Anytime you're in the top four in the state, it needs to be at a nice facility.
For sure.
Something where our guys and the opposing team can really, make it special to go to. And, I hats off to, especially for me, my AD, Coach Anderson, for really working hard to try to, get this to work. And our girls get to go out tomorrow night as well, play there. So, it's a big experience for our girls and our guys as well.
Coach, that environment tonight, how important is momentum? Because I know it's going to be a raucous crowd expected in Spartanburg over at Wofford College. Starting fast, I'm sure, is something that you emphasize from a head coaching standpoint. How important is that going to be to try to capture that momentum tonight?
Well, I think the biggest thing, especially for us, is, in a game like this, both teams, there's going to be some adversity in the game. And it's how you respond through that adversity, is going to be the key for us.
Yeah. No doubt about that. Coach, best of luck. Appreciate you hopping on with us, and good luck tonight. Hopefully we'll talk to you real soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Yerrick Stoneman, the head boys basketball coach at Greenville Tolos. That is going to be a huge game tonight. If you, again, I said it a minute ago, if you don't have plans tonight and are a fan of high school athletics, that one over at Wofford is going to be one you don't want to miss. I've had several listeners this year come out to Burns games and other games and talk about just the environments from hearing us talk about it and carry some games on the radio. It is going to be awesome tonight. I cannot wait for that one. I'll be arriving right at tip. So if you're there, let me know. We'd love to catch up with you. But Wofford College, to Coach Stolman's point, what a great venue, man. Great job from Greenville High School and Riverside, like he said, securing that venue. And those kids, man, for them to be able to play at Wofford and not have to drive to Florence for an upper state championship, absolutely love it. That is awesome. Cannot wait for that one tonight. Let's get into college basketball this weekend. A loaded slate for you if you're a college basketball fan, especially the important game for the Clemson Tigers trying to break that losing streak. We'll talk college hoops next. Well, it is a big college basketball weekend for the women. It's the final weekend of the regular season for the men. Next to last weekend in the regular season. A big weekend for a lot of local teams here in the state of South Carolina. Local teams, like real local as well, meaning Furman and Wofford, but also the Clemson Tigers needing a big bounce back on the hardwood. We'll get into it. Time to talk college hoops as March is approaching. Welcome into Wire to Wire. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you this afternoon. Diesel's still on vacation, but he will be back Monday. The Joy Law Firm text line is open at 844-326-3663. If you want to get in on the college basketball conversation, you can. Phone lines are open as well. And, boy, we still have a loaded show coming your way. We're going to be joined by Jason Priester of the Clemson Insider in the very next segment to talk Clemson, South Carolina baseball this weekend. Rivalry weekend is here. We've got daily wires. I'm going to dive into Clemson, South Carolina, and give you my predictions coming up at 5 o'clock. 5:22, we'll be joined by Lane Fowler, the head boys basketball coach of the Burns Running Rebels, ahead of tomorrow's game in the Upper State Championship. A lot of audio to get to on the show as well. It's a big show coming your way, Tolos. Hope you can turn it on and leave it on. But let's dive into college hoops. Top 25 action, only 1, 2, 3 teams in action tonight. Will the run continue, or will the streak come to an end? What am I talking about? Tonight, 6 p.m., the only undefeated team in college basketball, Miami of Ohio. They're 28-0, by the way, 15-0 in the MAC. They're at Western Michigan. Now, on paper, Miami of Ohio, the much better team, because Western Michigan only a 4-win team this season in conference play. So Miami of Ohio expected to win tonight. The spread is 11.5. But Miami of Ohio is just an interesting standpoint from the storyline that is their undefeated season. Will that continue, or will that come to an end at some point before the regular season comes to an end? A really big game in the Big Ten tonight, 8 p.m. on Fox. Michigan on the road at Illinois. Man, this one's going to be good. Michigan 16-1 in the Big Ten, 26-2 overall. One of their only losses just to Duke last weekend, and a very good Illinois team as well, 22-6, 13-4 in the Big Ten. Michigan tonight favored by 1.5 points. I like this game tonight. I like Michigan a lot, and they're a team that can be, I don't want to say not talked about enough, talking about Michigan, but I did watch them against Duke, and while they lost the game, I still think there's some positive there. I still think there's some really good pieces they have, and I think Michigan's a team that we could see right back in the Final Four. I do. I like Michigan a lot. They've had a really good year. I know we don't cover them a lot and talk about them a lot because they're not, in the SEC. They're not on the East Coast, but they've been dominant this year, man. Illinois is good as well. Illinois leads the Big Ten in offensive rebounding. They play a slower, physical style to try to control the tempo a little bit. Keaton Wagler has been fantastic. He's averaging 18.2 points per game. That home court advantage tonight, paired with a strong offensive rating that Illinois has, I think that's going to be interesting to watch. Now, Michigan kind of opposite in the terms of which they play. A fast-paced offense, strong execution offensively, man. We saw that. We've seen that this year. And, they've had some big games and big wins in conference play. They've got balanced scoring. They're deep, a team with a lot of depth. And, Illinois has dominated this series recently, winning the last 9 matchups. But I don't know. Michigan's an interesting story tonight on the road. I know it's a road game, but I think if Michigan can speed this game up, I do think they have an advantage. Illinois wants that half-court, physical possession type basketball, right? Offensive boards, second chances, and I think that Michigan doesn't – I don't think Illinois matches up the best against Michigan is what I'm getting at. I like I like Michigan tonight, but I do think it's going to be close. Again, they're favored by 1.5. So that's a big, big game in the college ranks to keep an eye on this weekend. Also in college basketball tomorrow, it's a big weekend in the top 25. Let's start at 12 noon on ESPN, Virginia and Duke. My goodness, how good has Duke been this year? I think I said it earlier in the week that that last game Duke played, surely they won't cover that 17.5 point spread, but then they go out and win by like 30 or 40 points. Duke's just been so dominant. At times, this Duke team looks unbeatable. They're obviously not, but at times this season, man, they do. And Virginia's a team that I thought the guys in the last show before I came on, I thought they brought up a good point. Virginia's not getting talked about a lot this season. And they're only a 3-loss team are the Cavaliers, 25-3 overall, 13-2 in the ACC. Virginia's a sneaky team. Now, tonight, Duke's favored by, 9.5? I think they're the better coach, but, man, I think Ryan Odom's done a good job. I think he's done a quiet good job, right? And we all know how good Virginia's been historically, but they've just been quiet this year, man. Not a lot of people are talking about the Cavaliers, and they're 25-3. They're 13-2 in conference. I don't know about this one tonight. Again, Duke's favored by 9.5 at home, and I think it being at Cameron's big, right, in Durham. I do think Duke wins. I do like Duke tonight. Do they cover the 9.5? Ooh, I don't know. These are two of the best teams, two of the best teams in the ACC, man. And Duke will clinch at least a share of the ACC regular season title with a win. Virginia, they can pull even with Duke if they somehow win this game tonight. Duke's had such a strong season, man. One of the nation's best records, very balanced attack. I talked about that big win they had last weekend over Michigan, but you look at this Cavaliers team, they're riding a long win streak. They're playing well in ACC. That disciplined defense, guess what? Under Odom, that hadn't changed. They've still been disciplined defensively. They're efficient offensively. They come in really, really hot lately. Like I said, they've won a few games now. And look, I think Duke wins this game, but I do have interest in Virginia plus 9.5. I do. I think Virginia's a quiet team that has the chance to be really, really good when it comes to tournament time. Also tomorrow, number 5, Houston in action versus Colorado. Number 6, UConn in action tomorrow against Seton Hall. Connecticut favored by 14.5 points. At 2 p.m. tomorrow, here we go. Let's dive into this one. It's Louisville coming into Clemson. And here we go. Can Brad Brownell and the Clemson Tigers break or end this 4-game losing stretch they've been on? Things hadn't been good lately. And, Louisville's an interesting team. I think they're, 8-4 in the – no, 9-6, rather. 9-6 in conference play. They're favored by 1.5 tomorrow. Favored by 1.5. Look, I don't think this would be a bad loss for Clemson if they were to drop this game, but the problem is Clemson's now lost 4 in a row. This would be 5 in a row. I'm torn on this one. I really am. I like Clemson to bounce back. I do. I picked Clemson against Florida State last Saturday and got that wrong. I thought surely they'll bounce back, but they didn't. I eventually, like there's no way they're going to lose 5 in a row, right? As a home dog. I think this is going to be a competitive ACC battle. I really do. I love Pat Kelsey. I think he's done a tremendous job. I just don't know. My level of confidence with Clemson right now is extremely low just because of the last few games. And, you can never count out a Pat Kelsey-led team. I think they're averaging 86.4 points per game, averaging an allowed points per game at 72. They're rebounding the ball well, and they kind of, you look at some of these statistics, they're outplaying Clemson in a lot of these statistics recently. They are. They've got good guard play. Clemson, has good players as well, but the problem is they just have been inconsistent. They did shake up the lineup last Saturday, and then you throw in the factor that Clemson's now had several days off. They hadn't played since last Saturday, so it'll be a week since they played a game. Louisville's offense does concern me. They're explosive offensively, among the ACC's top in scoring. Their ball handlers are they play really well. They can create space, and you look at what they do when they play well. That larger scoring output, man, for Louisville, it opens up a lot of fast break and spacing. And the way Clemson's defense has played lately, that doesn't give me a lot of confidence. It really doesn't. So, like, I'm picking Clemson to win tomorrow, just in the mere fact of they're still a good team, and they've lost 4 in a row. But I'll be honest with you, you can probably hear it in my voice. I'm not real confident in it. I'm not real confident when it comes to Clemson Louisville. So I do think that's going to be a good game. Advantage for Clemson for that game being at home, but that didn't matter Saturday. And I think you just gotta. I think you've got to have more from guys like R.J. Godfrey, who's averaging 11.5 points per game, and Justin Porter, he's been good but streaky. He's averaging 9.7. Butta Johnson, they put him in the starting lineup last Saturday. I don't know if that'll happen again tomorrow, but Butta's averaging 5.5 points per game. So, you're not getting the most offensive output from guys like from guys like Butta Johnson and Ace Buckner, Nick Davidson. Nick Davidson, had a career year at Nevada and was a 3-point machine. But against Florida State, Nick Davidson scored 2 points. So I think that's where you look at this Clemson team and just say, man, what's happening? Nick Davidson had 2 points and 2 rebounds and 2 assists in that loss to Florida State. Ace Buckner, he had a good game against Florida State. He was one of the better players for Clemson. Finished with 15, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a couple of steals as well. I don't have a lot of faith. Carter Welling, 2 points against Florida State. The offense has worried me. And, they were so consistent defensively all season long, but they haven't been as good defensively either. And I think I do think that's something you look at. Their defensive efficiency rating over the past few games. For whatever reason, that West Coast trip, it's like the jet lag just kind of stayed with them, right? And they hadn't been able to shake that jet lag. And they're not playing a gimme. It's not a gimme they have Saturday. So that does concern me. I like Clemson to win, but as I've said multiple times now, I just don't have a lot of faith in that pick. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they pull it out and they get things together, and we'll see. We'll see. The broadcast is on ESPN2. Tip set for 2 p.m. on Saturday. A big, big day. Hopefully the Tigers can bounce back. What else is happening Saturday in the college basketball world? Vandy, Kentucky, Kansas, Arizona. At Kansas-Arizona game, man, that one's going to be a lot of fun. Kansas is 14 in the country. Arizona's number 2. Arizona at home Saturday, favored by 8.5 points. That one's a game to keep your eye on. 4 o'clock Saturday on CBS, a 16 versus a 4, and Texas Tech versus number 4 Iowa State. Iowa State favored by 9.5 points at home. Those are going to be those 2 4 o'clock games right there. That might be 2 of the best games of the entire Saturday at 4 p.m. with Kansas and Arizona and Texas Tech at Iowa State. That one's going to be a lot of fun. Number 12, Nebraska in action at 4 p.m. against USC. Number 19, BYU in action at 5:30 against West Virginia. An SEC matchup featuring 2 top 25 teams tomorrow at 6 p.m. Alabama, number 17 versus number 22, Tennessee. The Crimson Tide are 4.5-point dogs on the road. Villanova at number 15, St. John's tomorrow. 23, St. Louis. They're at home tomorrow. I like Arkansas and Florida by the way, at 8:30 on ESPN. Florida at home, favored by 10.5 points. It's a good Arkansas team. I don't think it's a great Arkansas team, but a really good Florida team that I think is kind of surging at the right time. This Florida team, man, they've been really good lately, reigning national champions. Again, they're favored by 10.5 points on Saturday. That's a lot of points. A lot of points. Arkansas, they're 11-4 in the SEC. Florida 13-2. That'll be fun. North Carolina, number 18, Tar Heels at home tomorrow, hosting Virginia Tech. Caleb Wilson not quite back, but I did hear a report earlier today that Caleb Wilson might be back in time for the Duke game next Saturday in the season finale, which would mean he would not play against Clemson next week when Clemson goes to Chapel Hill. But the problem with that is Clemson, or North Carolina rather, they're 3-1 without Caleb Wilson. So their play hadn't dropped off too much. Then 10:30 tomorrow night, Gonzaga and St. Mary's. Gonzaga, number 9 in the country. That's your top 25 action for the weekend. Also, 2 top 25 teams in action on Sunday. Number 8, Purdue at Ohio State, and number 13, Michigan State at Indiana. Really good college basketball weekend, but here we go. Coming down the stretch with March Madness just around the corner, and obviously conference tournaments before that. 844-326-3663. Texter gets in and says, Cole, what did the South Carolina High School League decide on the NIL meeting? Texter, did you miss the entire show yesterday? We had Lou Bezjak on and talked about it several times. No new news on NIL on the South Carolina High School League front. They did discuss it for a few minutes to open the meeting, and they're according to the meeting that I was in, there were no new updates from the different classifications out there, meaning the classifications 1 through 5A, 1A through 5A, have not expressed interest in pursuing NIL. So for the time being, NIL not coming to South Carolina. However, it is important to mention North Carolina has it, Georgia has it. So the 2 states that border South Carolina do have it. And as one of the committee members brought up, will we see legislative pressure when it comes to NIL in high school? That'll be interesting to keep an eye on. Will we see pressure from the legislators on bringing NIL to South Carolina? We'll see. Good stuff there. Let's talk to Jason Priester. Jason does a tremendous job with the Clemson Insider. We talked to Jason, I believe it was last Friday or the Friday before, but we're going to be joined by Jason Priester in the very next segment. We talked to John Whittle of the Big Spur yesterday to get a South Carolina perspective on the rivalry series this weekend. Now it's time to get the Clemson perspective on the rivalry series with Clemson and South Carolina. Will be joined by Jason Priester of the Clemson Insider next, right here on the Fan Upstate.
Takes at the door. Call in if you're man enough.
344 Fan Phone. This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Well, a big weekend in the state of South Carolina with our college baseball scene. Clemson, South Carolina renewing the rivalry on the diamond this weekend. And to talk about it from a Clemson perspective, we bring on Jason Priester of the Clemson Insider. Always appreciate Jason's time as he does a phenomenal job covering the Tigers on the diamond and what's happening in the life of Clemson with Eric Bakich and the guys. Jason, what do you think the overall vibes are from the Clemson fan base being undefeated, going against a team in South Carolina that has struggled this year already out of the gate, lost 3 games to mid-major programs now, including that loss earlier this week to Queens? What's the vibes like? What does a Clemson baseball fan feel if you were to go inside their mind going into this weekend series, Jason?
I think if you're just talking about from the fan base specifically, I'm probably saying pretty confident.
Yeah.
It's hard to ask for a much better start than you've seen from Clemson. It's probably, nobody expected South Carolina to have dropped 3 games at this point. Maybe even a little overconfident if we're being quite honest.
Sure.
But if you spend a lot of time on social media the past few days, there's a lot of confidence among this fan base. I think there are a lot of people thinking Clemson's going to just go in here and sweep through this thing. I'm not so sure that's the way it's going to play out, but I think that is the expectation, at least from some of the people inside of the fan base.
It's interesting, Jason. Clemson swept last year, but we didn't have the same feeling going in because it was the first year of Pulmonary. We just didn't know what to expect. And then even though Clemson swept, those 3 games were pretty competitive for the most part. Even that Saturday game at Floor Field was a very competitive game. So it wasn't like, oh, the sky's falling, but it does feel that way this year. Do you think the players feel that as well? Because at the end of the day, they see the scores. They see what's happening with South Carolina.
It's hard to get inside of a player's mind. Each guy's going to feel a little bit differently. I think Bakich does a really good job of keeping those guys dialed in. Just on the task at hand, one day at a time. As best as he can, anyways, because we're still talking about human nature.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. They keep up with their rival, especially some of those guys that have been there for a while and have gotten a taste of this series and know exactly what this rivalry is all about. They're keeping one eye on what the Gamecocks do. Does that mean they're going to be overconfident heading into the series? I don't think so. I think they at least the guys that were here last year, they remember how competitive that thing was. More often than not, it's always going to be competitive. It's kind of like Eric Bakich said earlier in the week. You can throw the record books out. None of that stuff matters. And this kind of rivalry, man, you're always going to get each other's best.
Jason, how do you gauge? And I have a hard time doing this, not only in baseball but in other sports as well. How do you gauge just how good this Clemson pitching staff is from the perspective of, like, you look at their ERA, I think they're near the top of the country, but you also look at who they've played, and they hadn't played anybody as of yet. We talked about this last weekend, but kind of the same tune here as their pitching just continues to be super dominant. But we just asked the question, how good is this pitching staff?
I think that's something that's kind of yet to be determined. It's something that's played Clemson the past couple years, or at least throughout the Bakich era so far. They just haven't had enough quality arms, or they have some injuries that kind of depletes the depth. Whatever the reason may be, when you get to the end of the season, they've just not had enough pitching. So far this year, I think they've used 17 pitchers. And I remember Bakich saying in the preseason that he thought they had like 18 to 21 that they could depend on. And I'm pretty sure that number 17 so far, and that's not having seen Jacob McGovern, who's out for the year. That's not having seen a freshman like Dan Margulies, who was, I think, was dealing with an injury in the preseason. So there's a couple of more guys. We haven't seen a Luke Kissenberth who missed last year with an elbow injury. So, there's still a couple other guys we haven't seen yet. But so far, so good. And they've been this good without getting the best of Aiden Kanatkin.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the more impressive things about this little 8-game winning streak is the pitching's been this good, yet it's not due to not being the best of the bunch.
No doubt about it. We're talking to Jason Priester of the Clemson Insider on this Friday Wire to Wire. I'm Cole Bryson. If you just tuned in, talking Clemson baseball ahead of the rivalry weekend. When you look at the 3 games, I want to get your thoughts. I talked about this yesterday. I agree with you. I think the momentum and confidence of the fan base is that Clemson can sweep. Obviously, that'll be easier said than done. But if you were to pick one game, Jason, where you felt like South Carolina had the best opportunity to win that game, I won't tell you what game I picked until after you tell me. I want to see what you think. Which game of the 3 do you think is most winnable based on the locations and the pitching matchup this weekend for the Gamecocks?
I'm going with Saturday in segment.
That's what I said too.
Am Phillips has been that good through his first 2 starts. I think his ERA is under 1.5. He's been phenomenal. He's been everything they thought or they wanted him to be. The transfer from USC Upstate, and Clemson got a glimpse of him last year in the regional, so they know how good he is. And I get it. Michael Sharman's on the other side. He's been no doubt, he's been Clemson's best starting pitcher to this point. He's been fantastic through 2 starts. But if there was one game I had to pick, it's that one, and it's because Ant Phillips is the starter.
Jason, the lineup not getting talked about as much as the pitching just because of how dominant the pitching's been. Again, I know it's hard to evaluate right now based on the sample size and who Clemson's played. How would you gauge this lineup thus far this season, undefeated and offensively pretty potent at times?
Yeah, I think it's been what they wanted it to be, what they expected it to be. The lineup last year just, whatever reason, it just did not have the pop that a lot of us thought it would going into the season. They hit a lot less home runs last year than they did the year prior, and those numbers seem to be back up this year. The middle of that lineup is extremely dangerous, and transfer Todd Dowley hasn't even really gotten going yet. I think and I'm of the opinion that it could be even better, because Bryce Clavon's kind of gotten off to a slow start. Lichtenberger's kind of got off to a slow start. 2 transfers they brought in that are at the bottom of the lineup. If Clavon ever kind of finds his footing at the plate, he's been really good out there in center. But if he finds his footing at the plate and that 7, 8, 9 hole starts to hit as well as I think they can, man, this lineup's going to be really good because Savoy's been, raking to start the season. Jacob Gerald's been hitting home runs. Darren Purify's been creating chaos. I mean, it's been really good 1 through 6. 7, 8, 9's been a little bit up and down. But if those guys can find the consistency that I think they can have, man, this lineup's going to be dangerous.
How big of a loss, Jason, in your mind, is McGovern, the local product from Seneca? I mean, right now it doesn't look like they're missing them too much, but do you think they will eventually?
Absolutely. I don't know. He's too good not to miss. Yep. He's probably your best left-handed pitcher out of the bullpen, at least your best, going into the season, you see him as the best. Your most consistent. And knowing that you're losing your top left-handed reliever and you've got 2 lefties in the starting rotation, does that kind of make you rethink the makeup of your starting rotation? Do you want to pull one of those lefties back into the bullpen to maybe fill that void? He's been a big part of things. When he's been healthy, he missed some time last year, being banged up. But when he's been 100%, man, he's been hard to hit. He's one of those guys you can bring in. You can get at least 3 good innings out of him one time through the lineup. Sometimes he can go a couple of times through. There's no way they don't miss him. It's just a matter of, can the rest of the guys step up and fill that void, and do they have the depth that through the first 2 weeks it looks like they have?
What's the one storyline, Jason, the one piece of this rivalry series this weekend that I haven't mentioned that you think's worth noting, following along with for Clemson fans?
That's a good question. I would just say this. I don't think this South Carolina team is as bad as they've been portrayed to be. I think there's more talent on this team. I think there's enough talent on this team to be better than what they've showed so far. I fully expect this thing to be fully competitive. I'll be surprised if either team sweeps. These 2 teams always bring out the best of each other. The storyline to me is, how competitive I think it's going to be, man. I think this is going to be one heck of a series this weekend.
No doubt about it. Let's flip over to spring football. What's the biggest storyline takeaway from Dabo, what you've heard, what you've seen from the spring football? I know it's early, but from what Clemson fans should be interested or excited about.
I'm going to go with the quarterback spot.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like for the first time in a long time, Clemson's got a legit quarterback competition here. I get it. Dabo has said more than one occasion that Chris Vizina's, you know, kind of in the pole position and it's his job to lose, but he's still got to go out and earn it, man.
Yeah.
He's still got to go out. You got to beat Chris Denson out. How far along Denson is in his development, you know, is going to be a big key this spring. How much of a jump he's able to take between freshman year and sophomore year. But that's one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to is seeing how the quarterback competition plays out. The most important position on the field. It's going to dictate how much success Clemson has this year, who the quarterback is, and how good he can be.
Let me ask you this, just kind of playing devil's advocate for a second. Why is Vizina the leader in the clubhouse? Why does he have the pole position right now?
I think it's just because he's been around. I think he's a little bit more polished at this point. I think Denson was really raw coming out of high school. I've heard he made a ton of progress throughout last fall and throughout the season. But he's still got some things to clean up with some of his mechanics and in the passing game. But, I think it's just because Vizina's been there a little longer and they're a little bit more familiar with him. But at the same time, you're bringing in a new offensive coordinator. It's a clean slate for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got to learn the same thing. I do think that helps Denson more than it hurts.
Do you think that that's a part of it that maybe is not being talked about enough? I'm not saying that like Chad will make a decision that Dabo's not a part of, but like this is not a national championship contending team. So like again, playing devil's advocate again, Jason. If it were a national championship team, a team with contention, I'd say, you know what, you're probably right. Vizina's more polished, but I don't feel like we're at the point right now where the pressure's on that the most polished guy who's been in the room longest is just by far the default guy that throws out. I say all that to say this. I think there's a lot of fans out there that just want the more talented guy, regardless of polish or who's been there the longest. Is that fair?
Well, I think that's absolutely fair. And if you don't put the best guy on the field that gives you the best chance at winning, something's wrong, man. That's the whole name of the game is winning. You got to put the guy out there that gives you the best chance at winning. Just because Denson is a little less polished right now, don't mean he won't be quite as polished, you know, come fall camp. You know, there's still a long way to go between now and August. But, you know, again, Vizina might be in the pole position, but he's going to have to beat off a hungry Chris Denson if he wants to win that job. And I am of the opinion that no matter what class you're in, how long you've been around, you have got to go with the guy that you think gives you the best chance at winning.
And I agree with that, Jason, based on what you've seen in past years from spring, like the spring window practice leading up to the spring game. Can you see enough in spring to have a quarterback battle decided, or does it take more summer and fall camp?
It probably, this one in particular, I think is going to go into the fall.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way you can fairly decide it in one spring.
Maybe even like the week before the season, that far, you think?
I could potentially see it going that far. I mean, I just think you got to give everybody a fair shake, and you got to give them every possibility to win it, and you got to do what's best for the team.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a program that is, you know, in decline. You came into last season as a national title contender, a top 5 ranked team, and you finished 7-6. You're kind of at a crossroads, man. You got to get this thing turned around.
Jason, before we let you go, I saw you got your Twitter account back. You got hacked. Do I need to send that money back to you?
I am so fortunate to get that thing back, man. I tried and couldn't get it back, and I just took one more shot at it, and they ended up emailing me back and said, "Hey, it's open. You can get it." I could not believe it. Good Lord.
You and Elon are tighter than a lot of people thought. So appreciate you as always, Jason. Have fun this weekend.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Absolutely. Jason Priester, the Clemson Insider. If you haven't done so already, make sure you give him a follow on Twitter, on X. A good follow ahead of the weekend with the rivalry series approaching. Game 1 tonight in Columbia, and first Friday night game in Columbia in quite some time in this series, if you will. And then tomorrow, Segra Park. And then Sunday, finishing the series out at Clemson. We'll take a break, come back. We've got to get to the top headlines in all of sports. Our Daily Wires next, right here on the Fan Upstate.
on a Tennessee Saturday night.
Rolling on in hour number 2 of the show. Appreciate all of those who have tuned in, turned it on, and left it on, if you will. Turn it on and leave it on. That's what we ask you to do each and every day right here on Wire to Wire. I'm Cole Bryson. We've got to get to our top headlines, the top stories in all of sports in a segment we call our Daily Wires. What the heck is happening out in the sports world? Well, we'll start in golf, where there is a tournament this weekend down in Florida, the Classic in the Palm Beach area. I said it earlier in the show, I do enjoy golf this time of year. Last weekend was really fun. The fact that we had a local win it, Jacob Bridgman. But I don't know how interested I will be in this one, but that one is already underway. Joe Highsmith was the previous winner. College baseball this weekend, the Palmetto Series is beginning tonight in Columbia, a rare Friday night game. Usually it's the past few times, rather, it's been in Clemson on Friday and then Columbia on Saturday, so that one will start here a little bit later tonight. Falcons assistant LaTroy Lewis has been fired amid sexual assault allegations. The Atlanta Falcons dismissed LaTroy Lewis from his role as assistant defensive line coach Friday after sexual assault allegations surfaced against him. The team announced Monday that was investigated by the Ann Arbor Police Department. Some news there out of the NFL. Let's go to the Combine. Polarizing quarterback Diego Pavia not toning things down at the Combine. Reports are right now he wasn't fazed by the criticism that he's gotten thus far, and it doesn't seem like things are going to change in the NFL. Pavia said, "One thing about me is I don't care what people think about me. Criticism, I don't care. Clickbait, I don't care." Pavia certainly became a polarizing figure in 2025, in part because of what he did at Vanderbilt. Obviously, being on the Heisman Trophy ballot was a big part of that as well. He did post F all the voters on social media, though, after he didn't win the Heisman Trophy. So I don't know that that was well received, but it looks like that's the way he's going to be in the NFL as well. Also in the NFL, the salary cap has topped $300 million for the first time, landing at $301.2 million in 2026 for a $22 million increase over last year. The cap increased 40% in just 5 years since it dropped, coming off of the pandemic all through 2020 season when there were no fans allowed at games. But those numbers were sent to clubs Friday, and teams must be under the salary cap by March 11th, the first day of the league new year. And they've seen rapid growth with that salary cap since that COVID season. So that's a big number. Man, that's wild, but it's what happens in the NFL. Let's see here. Also, let's go to a little Major League Baseball Braves related today. How about Ronald Acuna Jr. hitting a grand slam earlier in the Grapefruit League? Good to see that out of the superstar Ronald Acuna. Let's hop right back to the NFL Combine, where former Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson said Friday at the NFL Combine that he is prepared to show NFL talent evaluators that he is a franchise quarterback. Simpson is currently the number 25 player overall on ESPN Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board and the number 2 quarterback behind Indiana's Fernando Mendoza, who was the number 1 player overall. So think about that. The number 1 overall player is Fernando Mendoza at quarterback. The number 2 quarterback is the number 25 player, the 25th best player. So you're telling me number 2 through 24 non-quarterbacks. Think about that, a non-quarterback heavy draft maybe that we'll see in April. Simpson was asked at the Combine Friday about his readiness to be an NFL starter. He said he has conveyed his confidence and his ability to team personnel during sit-down interviews this week. Simpson said, "First off, I think I'm ready. I'm a franchise quarterback. Alabama prepares you the most for the NFL. The Alabama locker room is as close to the NFL locker room as you will get." Simpson said he is healthy after battling some nagging injuries down the stretch this past season, including his lower back, elbow, as well as a fractured rib. He plans to throw Saturday during the on-field workout for quarterbacks, where Fernando Mendoza, is not expected to throw on Saturday. So Simpson will be Kiper's highest-ranked quarterback to participate. He said, "It's why I decide to throw and why I'm excited about it." He also addressed significant weight loss toward the end of the season. He went from 210 to just over 190 due to what some in the league have said was a case of gastritis. As he outlined, that is not the same thing as the shot, by the way, for those wondering. Ozempic is completely different. He outlined his pre-combine regimen to be prepared for the combine and the draft. He said, lots of eating, lots of 4 meals a day, Simpson said of his combine prep, lots of shakes, just getting in a routine of getting up in the morning, eating, drinking chocolate milk, eating lunch, eating the right meal, adding a shake to that, dinner, eating, adding a salad, just sticking to that. So a lot of eating in preparation for the combine. And, a lot of this combine stuff is more about meetings than it is anything else. It's an opportunity for these general managers to sit down and have conversations with these players. And the NCAA college football targeting penalties slowly declining since 2020, the NCAA said yesterday. Targeting penalties have steadily declined since 2020, dropping from about 1 in every 4 games to approximately 1 in every 7 games last season. NCAA coordinator of officials Steve Shaw said Friday. Shaw also said, "It's a good news story. It is a slowly decreasing curve. If you go back and watch them from 2017, 2018 versus today, the players play the game differently. Hits on quarterbacks, hits on receivers, defenseless players. The game has changed in a positive way, and our injury rates show that." The NCAA has also recorded its lowest 3-year average concussion rate since the statistics were meaningful, Shaw said, but that data is still preliminary and being collected from last season. Tolo's hour number 3 of the show coming up next. If you want to get in on the conversation, 844-326-3663. Still a lot to get to right here on the Fan Upstate. Well, we're continuing the college baseball conversation right here on the Fan Upstate. If you just tuned in, welcome into Wire to Wire. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you. Let's go to the phone lines where we welcome in John Whittle of the Big Spur to talk about what happened last night and also what happens this weekend. John, I had a text come in about 10 minutes ago on our text line, and it was a Gamecock fan. The text read, I'm a Gamecock baseball fan, and I'm asking if I can pay my tab and leave for the season already. Check, please. Would you say that's how the majority of this fan base feels right now, John?
I'd say yes. And, I mean, I don't think you got to look much further than the attendance last night. I personally wasn't there, so I was watching it on the stream, just like the dozens of other folks who decided to tune in. So, yeah, it's a challenge over there right now.
Do you feel like the attendance is a good representation? I know sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But, and I said it earlier in the show, I even put the picture up on the stream for those watching. It's a midweek game in February. I get it. It's not normally the turnout. But, John, I could literally on the stream from third base to first base count the people in attendance. Is that a fair representation in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, because it hasn't really been great at all this season. You know, there have been some – I mean, there was a little bit of weather last weekend, obviously, and then the opening weekend, they played the doubleheader on Friday with the first game starting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So, you know, it makes it a little bit of a challenge. But, you know, opening day was supposed to be at 4 o'clock on Friday, and there were fewer people there at 4 o'clock than there were at 1 o'clock. So I don't know what that says, but – yeah, it's. I mean, the morale around the baseball program, inside and out, I think, is at an all-time low.
You know, I look at last night's loss against Queen. Obviously, that's bad, John. But you look at 3 losses this season already to mid-major programs. Is there something that you've seen, because you watched them, when you watch these mid-major programs against South Carolina and even the high-major programs as well, but specifically those 3, including Queens last night, is there a talent discrepancy in your mind, or does South Carolina have the talent and they're just, for whatever reason, not getting that talent to play?
Oh, you know, let me start by saying South Carolina is more talented than these teams that they've lost to. I don't think the talent gap is that huge, which is pretty damning. I don't think this team is markedly better than last season when you go individual by individual, position by position. I don't see that. You know, there's certainly some guys out there who have played very well in college baseball before who are not playing very well right now. I mean, you look at a Logan Sutter who, you know, set a single season doubles record at Purdue, who, you know, can't get an extra base hit for the life of him. And Ethan Lozama was supposed to come in and really hit. And, you know, he got a few hits last night. I think he had 3 hits last night, actually, but he's really struggled this season. I mean, there are guys who you brought in to count on who aren't producing, and, you know, whether the light clicks for them or not, I don't know, but it doesn't look like there's a huge talent discrepancy between, you know, the teams that South Carolina has played and the Gamecocks so far.
John, we'll get into Clemson in just a few minutes, but we were talking about this in the first segment of the show. You know, we joked last year and this offseason, and we all said, well, can't get any worse than last year, but I don't know. 6 conference wins, 28-29, I think was the record. This is a crazy question, but could it get worse than last year in your mind?
You know, I think I said it on your show. I know I've said it plenty. Like, people ask me if it can be worse than last year, and I kept saying, well, no, it can't be worse. And I don't know that I can swear to that right now. Like 6 wins in conference is pretty darn bad. I got to go back and look at my numbers, but since the league expanded to 30 games, I think it was 93, 90, right in that area, give or take 1 year. There's only been about 7 records that were worse than South Carolina's last year, and so it's hard to get worse. I don't know that South Carolina can lose more than 24 SEC games, but, you know, they had a perfect non-conference record last year against the mid-major competitions. Obviously, they lost to North Carolina and lost all three to Clemson, but they were perfect against all the mid-majors, and that is not the case so far this year. So can it get worse? I guess it can get worse.
John, obviously Paul Mainieri takes blame because he's the head coach, right? The buck stops with him. But in your mind, from last year and now this year, like I said earlier in the show, you've got, I don't know if he is the highest, one of the highest paid assistants in college baseball on one of the worst teams in the SEC. How much of this, in your mind, falls on Monty Lee?
Well, there's another assistant coach there too, in Terry Rooney, who also gets paid remarkably well. And you know, Monty is he doesn't have the same influence, I guess, now under Paul Mainieri that he did, you know, a couple of years ago under Mark Kingston. They were scoring more runs a couple of years ago than what they are now. I mean, they just are. And you know, so there's obviously some blame that goes everywhere. And I've had to say this a lot here recently, Cole, because South Carolina's been really bad at a lot of things here lately. But when a team in a program is as bad as what South Carolina baseball is right now, there's nobody absolved of blame. Like, start with the head coach, go all the way down to the manager who fills up the water bottles. Like, nobody's doing their job right. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and defend Monty Lee. What I will say is that if you compare his numbers from his first 2 years when he was coaching with Mark Kingston compared to what they are right now, like, the offensive numbers are totally different. Like, you can tell just by looking at the numbers how much the philosophies are different between what Monty Lee wants his offense to look like and what Paul Mainieri wants the offense to look like. And, you know, Paul at his opening day press conference, or not opening day, his opening press conference when he was first hired, came out and said, "I don't like walks." And Monty Lee loves walks. And so how those things coalesce, like, it's got to be a little bit of a challenge over there. And, you know, South Carolina, Monty's first couple of years, you know, they were top third of the league in on base percentage. And now they're bottom 2 or 3 in the league in on base percentage. And, you know, they're near the bottom of the league, and they're near the bottom of the league in everything right now, and that just wasn't the case 2 years ago. So, yes, Monty deserves some blame. Whether I'm going to sit here and, you know, point out his salary and, you know, hang him from, I can't do that, because I know that he's not as influential now as he was, and, you know, and that goes from a recruiting standpoint too. Terry Rooney's the recruiting coordinator, and Monty has been pulled back a lot from that. And, you know, he's got a little bit of say in who they recruit, but it's Terry who's making the calls. So I'm not going to absolve Monty of blame, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and point him out as the biggest person in all of this.
John, Clemson swept the series last year. This year, you know, the mindset, the feeling going into it for Gamecock fans isn't good. Is there any way you can convince me or the listeners out there that are Gamecock fans that maybe they could steal a game? Or, I mean, look, I know it lost to Queens last night's bad, but if Paul Mainieri wants to save face, you win 2 of 3 this weekend. That goes a long way in saving face for now before you get into SEC play. What are your thoughts initially on this weekend and how South Carolina matches up against a Clemson team that's been really hot, especially on the mound?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you find a way to win 2 out of 3 this weekend, like, I'm not going to say you're back on track, but you're certainly feeling a whole heck of a lot better than what you were. And the series last year was pretty competitive. I mean, the first couple of games were close. You know, the game at Founders Park on Sunday got a little bit out of hand a little bit late, but, you know, it was 3 relatively competitive games, at least when you look at the final scores. You know, I got the sense that it didn't feel as close as maybe the scores indicated in some of those games. But you know, I don't think I can convince anybody that, you know, South Carolina is going to go out and win 2 out of 3 and where the optimism would come from. I would just say that, you know, there's and I said this a lot last season, like, there's a lot of meat left on the bone in terms of in terms of talent with regard to how they're playing right now. Like, there are a lot of guys on this team who can play a lot better than what they have, and I think that's what you kind of have to hold on to in terms of hope of turning this thing around, like getting those guys to maximize their potential. And that was South Carolina's biggest detriment last year is just having guys maximize their potential. I don't think anybody can look back on last year at any player on the roster and say you got out of them what you expected to get. And South Carolina had so many guys transfer out last season, and not to a man, but you look at a lot of what these guys have done, and a lot of these guys have gone to new schools, whether it's at the SEC level or mid-major level or wherever, and they're playing good baseball. Eddie Copper's the Friday night starter for Charlotte this year, and Charlotte's usually a pretty good team. And Brennan Sweeney, has a bunch of strikeouts in his couple of appearances down at Mississippi State, and so you just got to figure out a way to get these guys playing up to their potential. They weren't able to do it last year. A lot of it hadn't happened this year, and that's got to be the biggest thing that changes.
John, we've talked about Brandon Stone a few times in the past couple of weeks. He's not on the probable pitching rotation on the email that was sent out from the Gamecocks. Instead, Riley Goodman, the redshirt freshman, on for Sunday. Is that something you expected? And we kind of talked about last year how Stone kind of platooned, I guess, in a way. They toyed with him in a way and brought him on and out of relief. Where do you see Stone fitting in this weekend? And did that move surprise you at all?
Not really, and I think they wanted to have Brandon Stone coming out of the bullpen and kind of one of those flex bullpen roles. Use him however you want to, whenever you want to, whenever you feel like you need him, and whenever you feel like he's best. And that's what they're kind of getting him into. I think a big part of the deal was getting Riley Goodman out of Friday night and moving him back into the rotation. I don't know that this is the week to do it. You take him out of Founders Park and you put him into Doug Kingsmore Stadium. So you're talking about trying to, relieve the freshman of some pressure. But you take him out of the home environment and put him into what's going to be a really raucous environment. So I don't know that would have been the move I would have picked. I maybe put Josh Gunther in there on Friday and move Riley back to Saturday and, have him start at Segra, which will be a little bit more friendly, and, Amp Phillips on Sunday. But, that's not what they decided to do. Amp obviously pitched pretty well for USC Upstate last year at Clemson, so would have been a very familiar environment for him, but they didn't ask me for my opinion on that. So I'm not real surprised to see a shakeup in general and to see Riley move out of that Friday night spot. What they ended up with is a little bit surprising to me. I thought Josh Gunther might go in there, but Alex Valentin also deserves a spot. I know they like Brandon Stone doing something different, and I guess this is where they ended up.
John, the first 1,000 fans will receive a free Rally towel. Will there be 1,000 fans there Sunday or Friday?
Yeah. I think most people will show up. Now, how late they stay, that'd be a different question. We'll see how that one goes. But yeah, I would imagine that there's going to be quite a few folks in Founders, and I'm sure it'll be a sellout. I'm sure a sellout number will not show up and walk through the turnstiles, and some of those folks will sell their tickets to some of their friends who wear orange in Columbia. But I think the stadium will actually look pretty good on Friday evening. This will be the first time that Carolina's played at home on Friday night in the rivalry game, and I guess 4 years after it being canceled a couple of years ago. So that'll be there'll be some folks there. They'll give out some towels, but we'll see how long those folks end up staying.
John, last question for you on the basketball side of things. I heard a report earlier this week that maybe Jeremiah Donati is going to increase the NIL budget for Lamont Paris again this year. Is there any truth to that from what you've heard? And if that is true, do you think it's right move, wrong move? Because the buyout, I think, is about $12 million just for Lamont Paris right now.
Well, I will say there is some truth in that, or there is truth in that conversation. Not some truth. There is truth in that conversation. Now, a decision hasn't been made yet with certainty on what direction they're going to go. Is it still possible that he he is fired after the season, I think there is absolutely still that possibility. And if not, they are certainly going to, well, I mean, whether they hire a new coach or not, they are certainly going to invest more into the basketball program this offseason from an NIL standpoint. But they about tripled it this past offseason, and they thought they were in a good place based on, the feedback from the basketball staff, and, it just didn't end up being the right number. They needed more than what they ended up getting. And, some of that is obviously reflected in the win-loss record, and, some of it is not. I mean, some of their highest paid guys are sitting on the bench for most, if not all, of the games. So it's they need a few more resources, but they also need to do a much better job of allocating those resources.
John, as always, appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Cole. Take care.
Let's go to the phone lines where Tom in Somerville has been waiting a few minutes before we have to run to a break. Tom, you've been patiently waiting. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say as a Gamecock fan on this Friday. Go ahead, Tom in Somerville.
You smell that cooking? You smell that cooking? We got Tigers on the smoker, and I'm smelling an upset in the great state of South Carolina this weekend. I've been pretty negative this week, but I woke up today and I said, it's a perfect weekend for an upset. And, Clemson may have more wins over the Gamecock in history, but when it matters the most, when the Gamecocks have their back against the wall the most against Clemson, the Gamecocks always rise to the occasion. And I'm telling you right now, Cole, I think we see a different baseball team this weekend. It may not change the outlook on the season, but this weekend we're going to see an inspired Gamecock baseball team, and they're going to get the job done. They're going to win 2 baseball games this weekend, and the Gamecocks will have bragging rights over the little old Tigers the rest of the year.
Wow. Tom, I love your optimism. I need your optimism more.
Hey, and I'm just saying, on Monday, it's going to be fun to call in and laugh when the Gamecocks do it. But, if they don't, I'm not like some people. I don't run from hate, and I don't run from criticism. So I'll call you on Monday, and I might either be overly excited and unrealistic, or I'm going to be as negative as they come. But at the end of the day, Gamecock baseball is the better program. We're going to get it turned around, and hopefully it starts this weekend. Also, shout out to the Atlanta Braves. Braves scored 11 runs in the bottom of the 3rd inning today, and, Ronald looked good. That Yuniesky, or whatever, however you say his name, it's about 15 letters long. He's been looking good. So, Braves fans, Gamecock baseball fans, it might be a sign of good things to come. Oh. And hopefully that happens this weekend.
Tom, you're the best. Always appreciate the phone call.
Go Gamecocks.
The optimistic Tom in Somerville. Woo! You just never know. You never know. I don't know that your optimism is going to turn into reality, Tom, but I hope you're right for your sake. We'll see, though. We'll see. All right, let's dive back into the high school basketball conversation. We had earlier 2 local coaches on. Alan Arnold came on the show in the 3 o'clock hour to preview tonight's Upper State Championship for Riverside Greenville. Alan's the head coach at Riverside. Garrick Stoneman joined the show at 3:45. He's the head coach over at Greenville. That's a massive game tonight at Wofford College. Tomorrow, Burns will play at Rock Hill against Ridgeview, a game you can hear on our sister station, 98.9 WORD. And to preview that game, head basketball coach of the Burns Running Rebels, Lane Fowler, next. Well, we're continuing the high school basketball conversation with a massive week and weekend ahead with state championships coming up next week and this weekend upper and lower state championships. We've talked to a couple of coaches already today, and we keep the conversation going right here on the Fan Upstate as we're joined by Lane Fowler, the head boys basketball coach of the Burns Running Rebels, previewing tomorrow's upper state championship game against Ridgeview. Coach, what have you seen thus far when watching film for those that haven't seen Ridgeview play this year?
Well, they're really good. I mean, they're back-to-back state champions. They got tons of kids that are going to play college basketball on that roster. They're long, they're lengthy. They play really hard. So we've got a tall task in front of us, and we're excited about the opportunity.
Joined by Lane Fowler, the head boys basketball coach of the Burns Running Rebels. Tomorrow's game is 6:30. It's at Rock Hill High School. How much time this year, how much preparation this time of year, Coach, can you actually do on a quick turnaround from a Tuesday game against Dutch Fork? Yeah, you can watch film, and yeah, you can implement a few things, but it's not like you have a full week. You have a few days, but I would imagine this time of year it's more focused on what you guys do, right?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate. We really work hard on sticking to the process, doing what we're doing, and, hopefully get better at it, correct some errors. And then, of course, you do your scout and your prep work of your opponent and get a lot of film and watch and, try to figure out a few tendencies here and there. But, we're pretty simple, Cole. I like it when our guys are, at the point of like, hey, this is what we do well. Let's continue to try to do that well. And then a few little things here and there that you want to get better at from game to game, even game to game in the playoffs. So I would say you're on the money there.
Coach, you've talked about Ridgeview a few times to me off the air, but their length is something that's a concern, their size. Do you feel like you can simulate that kind of stuff in practice, or do you just kind of have to get a feel for it once the game starts and adjust?
No, not unless some people move in District 5. We're not getting a simulation of that. Our guys do a great job. I mean it, like as far as, guys that aren't playing as much that, at this point in the year, just really, really good teammates and practice guys that try their best to simulate things that we're, going through in our walkthroughs and even in practice itself. So, yeah, I mean, you show them a little bit of film. I don't oversaturate my guys with film. I do a lot of film study, our coaches do, but I make sure our guys see a few clips of things they like to do offensively and defensively. And then after that, yes, we practice pretty normal. And then we do, a couple different sessions of what the other team does just to get a feel of maybe the angle they screen at or how they're trying to trap, just different things. So again, Ridgeview's really good. And we're excited to get this opportunity, and we feel like we got a really good team.
Coach, have you seen anything from Ridgeview when watching film that you maybe haven't seen this season during the games against teams in your region and against the playoff games, the playoff teams you've played? You talk about traps and the idea of game planning for what they'll do and try to how they'll try to game plan for your son, Colt Fowler. Have you seen anything on film that you maybe haven't seen during the season, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think a little bit. Yeah, I think they offer 3 or 4 different pressures in the full court, from 1-2-2s to 3/4 court 1-2-2, run and jump, pressure, man-to-man, of course, we've seen. But I think the thing that they bring off, you see it when I've seen them live and then on film, is they're just, 2 6'7" in the post, 6'5", 6'4" wings, 6'3" point guards. So going back to your other point, you can't simulate that. So that jumps off on the screen, when you're watching film, just how long they are and how, even when they don't block shots, they alter shots. But they get good guys off the bench. Coach Staley and them have obviously done a good job for a long time. So I don't, just to get to that, I don't think you can, again, I don't think you can simulate it, number one. And number two, it's a thing where, yes, they do bring different elements. But we've also competed, right now we have the number 1 strength of schedule in the state of South Carolina for max prep. So we feel like the schedule we set, Cole, all year long, not just Region 2 5A, which is the best region, but the fact that we've played a a North Mecklenburg out of Charlotte or Independence out of Charlotte, and teams like that. So we know we've scheduled difficult games to prepare for these type of games.
Coach, you and your staff know what your team does well. Do you try to anticipate what they'll do from a standpoint of when your son has the ball, Colt Fowler, what they'll do from a trap perspective or how they'll try to defend him? Is that something you spend a lot of time thinking about, or do you just kind of more so trust Colt in the moment to figure out a way to overcome those things that they throw at him?
I'd say it's a mix, and you definitely think about it, probably get heartburn thinking about it, but you also simulate a few things in practice, and then you go back to your training and your prep and your process and all those things. And yes, you put a lot of faith in Colt and his teammates. So I would say it's a mix of all.
Can you take us behind the scenes a little bit, Coach? It's a unique situation you're in, and we've talked about this before with Colt being your son. Are these the type of the type of weeks, the type of days leading up to a game like this where you and your son have a few more conversations than normal at home or going down the road or whatever that might look like compared to what a normal game week looks like, just trying to stress the importance of every little thing that could happen on Saturday?
Yeah, yes and no. Again, not trying to be vague here, but we definitely have a few more conversations. But once we leave Burns, we don't just tons and tons of basketball. Like last night, we went and watched High Point BC down in Clinton, and had a great time. And we talked a little bit in the car on the way home, and just enjoyed some basketball and some time together. But yeah, we'll talk about a few things. And but Colt's he's a student of the game too. Like Colt, I'll just say this: you can tell what players have watched Huddle because as the owner of it, you can go in there and see. And I'm not doing that to micromanage our kids. You just look, and Colt's one of those guys. He's always watching film. I'm watching him watch film, whether we're in the car and things like that. So he's a gamer. He's ready. He's excited about this, and he's played with some of these guys, whether it's travel ball or different, elite camps and things like that. So he knows how good they are, and he's excited about just the fact that he gets an opportunity to go against them.
We're talking to Lane Fowler, the head boys basketball coach at Burns High School. You talk about your point guard there, but man, we talked about this with two other coaches earlier on the show today, Coach. How important tomorrow night are the other guys going to be? The Suki Singhs, the Fabian McClintocks, the Jack Baileys, the guys that are role players but serve a really big role on this team, and every little thing they do will be under a magnifying glass tomorrow as well. How important are they going into that game tomorrow?
Well, it's super important. We don't win any games with just Colt Fowler. We're a team. We've responded as a team all year. Fabian and Suki are definitely way more than just role players. One of them's a North-South player. Both of them are all region players. Both have aspirations of playing in college, and I 100% think they will. But yeah, it's one of those, I signed up to coach team sports 27 years ago, and I didn't want to coach individual sports, and no disrespect to them, but it takes a team to be able to overcome some of the things we've overcome, and then also to be able to have any opportunity to not only just be in the upper state, which we're very excited about, but to win the upper state championship and have an opportunity to play a state championship. So, Kellen as a ninth grader has been big for us. You mentioned Jack. He's been big. Cam Hack, who came over this year from J.O. Man's, just now getting healthy from a broken hand, an injury. So Suki and Fabe have been phenomenal all year. Different style game, or just different things they bring to the table with Suki shooting, his length, and then Fabian, you and I've talked about Cole, just his versatility. He has the hardest challenge every night, being a 6'3.5", 6'4" post that, is basically every night of his high school career, he's going against somebody 2 or 3 inches taller. He's more than met that challenge. So we love where we are, and hopefully everybody shows up big tomorrow night because we're going to need it.
You talk about the point guard and Colt Fowler and what Ridgeview presents, Coach. Obviously, they've got a lot of height and length, as we've talked about, but you've been around this sport a long, long time in basketball. You've certainly played the game at a high level as well. Do you just kind of look at this as, man, you can prepare all you want, but at the end of the day, not saying coaching doesn't matter because, that's not true. But when you have so many high-level players on the court like you'll have tomorrow night, it eventually comes down to the players making the plays. We've heard the saying big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. Does it just sometimes just become that simple?
It does. I've said this forever. Basketball is the most player game of, I think, any sport. I believe in coaching. I wouldn't have done it my whole career. I'm blessed to have coached. I love it, the relationship side of it. I think our job with building the relationships is also the getting the guys in the right spots, a style that you play, look for, whatever it is, mismatches, but try to get a kid to a spot where this is where he can thrive. This is where he can be at his best. And then you do that with multiple kids, and then you do that with the whole team attitude. And that's what it comes down to. But yes, when it gets to it, there are things that, great players I've coached in the past and great players I coach now, like it's a player's game. And, you hope that you've prepared them, whether it's fundamentally in skill or just situational, where they can go out there. And whether it's the end of a game clock or quarter clock, or whether it's foul situation or, handling a double team, whatever it is, you hope you've prepared them, and then the kids got to go do it. So we've been fortunate to have a lot of good players, and we still do. And I think tomorrow night you'll see that shine through probably for both teams. I just hope it's for the Running Rebels a little more.
Coach, before we let you go, putting you on the spot, I've had both coaches in tonight's 5A Division II Upper State Championship game on the show earlier. Putting you on the spot. You don't have to answer this question if you don't want to. Do you have a prediction? You have does your gut tell you how this game tonight's going to go at Wofford between Greenville and Riverside?
Well, I know you know this. Two great coaches, two great programs, a lot of great players. I wish I could tell you, for me, playing in Region 2 5A, obviously losing to them twice this year, I know how good Riverside is. I also know that Greenville, state champion last year. Coach Stoneman's their new head coach this year, who has a pedigree of many championships behind him. I just feel like, for me, if there was any deciding factor, I do feel like with 4 starters for Riverside being seniors, I just feel like that can weigh in right here. But, Greenville has beaten them not only once this year, but last year in the playoffs. So, it really feels like it's going to be an absolute barn burner. And maybe, they say this in football a lot, but basketball can be just as true. Whoever has that ball last, it could easily be that type of situation. So, again, a fun game for the upstate, a really exciting game with phenomenal program. So I'm going to be over tonight. Our family's going to go over and check it out. So we're excited to see that game.
Well, Coach, save me a seat, as I'll be getting there right at tip. And you're right, it's going to be a fun one tonight. As always, appreciate your time. Best of luck tomorrow, and we'll see you then.
All right, Cole. Thank you, buddy.
Absolutely. Lane Fowler, the head boys basketball coach of the Burns Running Rebels. It is a big one tonight. Tolo's over in Spartanburg. If you don't have plans tonight, why not catch a big-time, high-level basketball game between Greenville and Riverside? I'm telling you, I really think this crowd's going to surprise a lot of people. I think it's going to be a packed house tonight. It's at Wofford College. And if you don't have anything to do, how about go check it out? Take the family, take the kids to Wofford College, because tonight I think could be a big one between Greenville and Riverside. I appreciate Coach Lane Fowler and both of those coaches for coming on, Coach Alan Arnold and Coach Stallman as well, earlier in the show. Continuing the conversation, and a new nickname for someone that has been showing out lately. Who is that player that I've got a new nickname for, and just how impactful this guy's been? Nobody's surprised, though. That's next.
Thirsty Hitchhiker.
for the people.
Text or call. One number does it all. 844-326-3663. That's 844-FAN-PHONE. This is Wire to Wire with Cole, Bryson, and Diesel on the Fan Upstate.
Putting a bow on hour number 3 of the show. Welcome in if you just tuned in. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you on this Friday. I've got a new nickname for one player that I have just been so impressed with this year in the NBA. And I don't know that I'm overly surprised, but I think it's time we rename Kon Knueppel to King Kon. King Kon, do you realize, I don't know if you realize what the former Duke Blue Devils doing. As the Charlotte Hornets, I know they're still below 500, 29-31. But this guy, man, I've been so impressed. Right now, as of today, before they play the Trailblazers tomorrow at home, by the way, Kon Knueppel is a rookie, averaging 19.4 points per game, which is pretty freaking awesome as a rookie. 44.2% from behind the three-point line as a rookie on the season, and a field goal percentage of 49.1. That'll get the job done, and that'll also get you a bag here pretty soon as well. So the Charlotte Hornets, again, they're still in like rebuilding mode. We know that. But you look at what Kon Knueppel brings to this team, I've just been so impressed. And you look right now, here we are on the 27th day of February. Charlotte Hornets are 10th in the Eastern Conference. And when you look at the Eastern Conference, it is a logjam from 10 all the way up to like a 6, maybe even 7 spot, where you have the Hornets at 10, the Hawks at 9, the Heat at 8, but the Hornets are only a game and a half behind the Heat at 8, only a game and a half behind the Magic at 7, only 2.5 games behind the 76ers at 6. It's a logjam. Kon Knueppel, I think, has shown us that, number one, he doesn't play like a rookie. Like, this guy's just a special, special talent. And from what I've watched, man, a couple of things that stand out. Like I said, number one, he doesn't play like a rookie. I can tell you that. He rarely forces shots. Even though he's really good offensively, he's very unselfish. He makes the extra pass. He can relocate well off ball. I think that's one of the things that impressed me really the most with him. He makes the right cuts at the right time. And, you know, that's that Duke polish almost translating immediately into the NFL, right? He's playing like a 4-year vet. And we talked about it earlier in the show with Ty Simpson and how he said that, you know, these Alabama players, a lot of them translate so well from college to pro, and they do. And you got to give Duke a lot of credit here because that it looks like he's a 2, 3, 4-year vet right now. And he's scoring efficiently too. It's not just volume. He's, like I said, 40+% from 3. He's playing within the offense. The shots he takes are high IQ shots, off movement, kickouts. And for a rookie, man, that kind of floor spacing from what I've watched, it's valuable. I hope this guy stays in Charlotte for a long, long time, and I hope they continue to put pieces around them. But Charlotte desperately needs consistent perimeter shooting because they've got some primary ball handler. They've got some guys that can handle the basketball, but they've liked this. They've liked this for a long time now. This kind of value that he brings to the floor. And you know what? Kon Knueppel is also a really good fit next to like ball dominant guards. And now they have some creators, which they've lacked in recent years, reliable catch and shoot kind of guys. And kind of going back to what I said about Kon, they've got a few guys that are just smart off the ball. And I think that's a big part of it. They defend. Kon Knueppel plays defense. Unlike the freaking Lakers game I watched last night, Kon Knueppel plays defense. And I think he plays his role, fits his role really, really well. I think he's a high IQ guy as well. He's got size. He can defend multiple positions. And I just think, man, when you look at what he's done in his rookie season, now he's going to have bad days, bad weeks, bad years. Of course, that happens. But he looks like the perfect IQ plus size combo, being able to defend the way he does. He doesn't get bullied. That's one thing you notice about him off the bat in the NBA. You know, he rebounds well for his position. And I don't think he's like some freak athlete, Kon Knueppel, but he's so fundamentally sound. That matters in the NBA. And I think his ceiling's only going to continue to get higher and higher. He was known as a shooter at Duke, right? But I think you're seeing, which is so impressive in year one in the NBA, you're seeing things outside of that, like that secondary playmaking, right? Attacking on closeouts, mid-range games getting better for Con Knipple. And all these things, man, these are huge for the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets have not developed wings well. They have not in recent years. They've been really bad. And to have a guy who can defend and shoot 40+% from three, 15 to 18 to 20 points per game kind of guy, I'm just telling you, how do you not love it? And I know Charlotte right now is still below 500. They're still below 500. But my point being, in the Eastern Conference, it is a logjam between like 7 and 10 and even 7 and 11. Milwaukee's right behind the Charlotte Hornets, and Milwaukee doesn't look like much of a big threat down the stretch. So I like where they are. I know they're at 10 right now, and that's not in the playoffs, but it's in the play-in tournament where the 7 through 10 play, right? The 7 will face the 8, the 9 will face the 10, and the loser of the 7-8 game will host the winner of the 9-10 game, with the winner taking the 8 seed. Look, who knows? There's a lot of basketball to play. Who knows if between now and April they can't climb up to 7 or 8, because it won't take much, or even 6. I mean, Charlotte right now is a 29-win team at 10 in the Eastern Conference. Go look at 5, which is 5 spots, a big jump, right? Not really. Toronto's only a 34-win. Now, that's still good. 34 wins is still good. But you're talking from 29 to 34, 5 wins is all really that separates the Charlotte Hornets at 10 and the Toronto Raptors at 5. So I'm just saying, between now and April, maybe they play themselves out of the play-in a good way, or they climb a little bit. And a lot of that has to do because of with how well Con Knipple's played. He's been good. I've been impressed. Of course, Cooper Flagg's been great too in Dallas, but Dallas isn't a good team right now. Con Knipple's team, I mean, who would have thought, has a better seed? Dallas is a 12 seed in the Western Conference. They've been horrible, 21-37. It's been a lot of fun. King Con, my new name for Con Knipple. Tolo's final hour of the show next, right here on the Fan Upstate.